Everyone, welcome to another exciting comics loving edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, I am delighted to be talking with comics creator Michael Fitzgerald Troy. Michael, may I call you Mike? Michael?
Michael's perfect. Thanks,
Great, great.
Jason. Yeah.
Thanks for jumping in, joining, bringing the very cool retro X-Men shirt as well. And thanks for the work in comics. You do biographical comics that I've run across, as well as, is it Frankie Boy Monster?
That's actually not me. That's it's from a publisher I'm associated with. That's actually a young artist named a cartoonist named Morgan B. Heron. That's his book. I just am contributing a pinup to the second issue of his book coming soon from Cosmic Lion Productions. So I have a pinup in there, but that's entirely his own thing. He just has a little pinup gallery. A lot of the indie artists that I know tend to include like some of their friends or associates
Yeah.
with pinups in the back. It's a fun way to cross promote your books and include your own art and something fun. So it's definitely a great book, and I recommend it. I reviewed it for my channel. That's in addition being a comic creator. I also have a comic-based YouTube channel where I review a lot of comics. I interview people just as you do, and I also like to do comic flip throughs, and I do a lot of independent comic books because I feel like there's some of the best comics being made right now. And
Hmm.
so whenever I find one that's like really good, I love to bring it to my audience, even if it just reaches a few people. I feel like a lot of the best comics are kind of word of mouth and spread that way anymore. You got to look outside of Marvel and DC, although they are doing some fun comic books. And, that's actually why I'm wearing the X-Men t-shirt today, is because on my podcast, or my YouTube channel, my friend and I are doing weekly recaps of the recently launched X-Men 97 cartoon,
Yes.
which is a sequel to the series from the 90s, which I didn't initially like watch, but for some reason, I'm completely on board with this one. It's heavily based on like Jim Lee and Chris
Hmm.
Claremont's X-Men. They've incorporated a lot of great storylines, and I feel like they've upped the game. Like the animation is amazing. The storylines are completely compelling. Like creating a lot of buzz. And I feel like, X-Men was kind of one of the comics that I loved as a kid that kind of brought me into comics.
Hmm.
Um, Gen X, a kid of the 80s, and reading Claremont's X-Men with, Cockrum and Byrne and Paul
Hmm.
Smith and, the newbies like Art Adams and all those great artists. So I feel like X-Men Fever is coming back due to this cartoon, and I welcome it. There's some great X-Men comic books coming this summer that I feel like I'm excited about X-Men again for the first time in a long time. And I think that when the X-Men does well in the industry itself does well, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's part of the ingredients of my connection to comics too, DC and Marvel. And I also appreciate what you say there about just shining a light on independent creators. And so please tell us the name of your YouTube channel as well.
My YouTube channel is Michael Fitz Troy TV. Fitz as in Fitzgerald, but that's kind of a long handle. So I don't know. It's what I came up with, but it's very comic book related. Hopefully, you'll link it in the description.
I
But
absolutely will. Hmm.
definitely worth checking out. That I'm trying to like I try to bring like comic positivity. I feel like a lot of comic book channels, especially the ones with higher ratings, are kind of like bashing Marvel and DC, and I
Yeah.
don't know, feuds between creators and stuff, and focusing on some of the negativity. So I don't like any of that. I like the positive channels. Like I like what Chris Pierce does with comic tropes. He brings a lot of great comic history to his YouTube channel. So I was definitely, I owe a lot of debt of gratitude to cartoonist kayfabe.
Hmm. Hmm.
Of course, that's been in the news a lot lately. And but as far as doing like reviews and interviews and stuff like that, so I figured somebody had to ride their coattails. So I've been doing that since, the pandemic, which I think got a lot of people back into comic books.
Yeah,
Having all that free time, my sister started sending me my comic books from my dad's attic in Ohio, and like it was the nostalgia I needed. And so it was the perfect time to start my YouTube channel. And then it kind of led to, from a cartooning point of view, it led to me being involved in some anthologies and some fan projects. One like an Image Comics tribute called Darkest Image, which
mm,
also had a sequel called Darkest Image Part Two. Just a bunch of indie creators just getting together and doing a big anthology, which ultimately led to me editing and putting together Big Bang anthology. This is like,
nice.
I got the idea when I interviewed Gary Carlson, who is the co-publisher of Big Bang Comics with his partner, Chris Ecker. They've been doing it for years. And I just had the idea to get all the talented artists together, I know together, and put together an anthology tribute and sort of like it's very like 80s inspired,
Hmm,
very
hmm.
like the comics that I grew up on, and lots of great artists in here, so many great artists. I colored a lot of it myself. I have some pinups in it. I co-wrote a lot of things, but a lot of the artists brought wrote and drew. Like it's a really a big hodgepodge. It's like my love letter to like Marvel fanfare and all
Hmm.
kinds of great anthologies that I loved um, growing up. This is from Cosmic Lion Productions, who also publishes the Frankie Boy Monster book that I
Hmm,
have the
hmm.
pinup in. Eli Schwab, the publisher, is on fire. He's like becoming one of the biggest indie comic book publishers. We did this as a Kickstarter. Um, it also had we had two covers. The other cover was by Jim Rugg of
Hmm.
cartoonist Kayfabe, who I interviewed for my channel, and such a nice guy, such a
Yes.
creative force, an amazing really talented, cover artist. He did Hulk grand design, and he did these great like trading card design for our cover, which we were able to turn into actual trading cards as an incentive for the program. But there's a lot of great art in here. It runs the gamut from like serious superhero, and then on the back cover, I have this cartoonist Jason Quinones, who's just like hilarious, and he did this like send up to the Charles Atlas. Like Big
Yes.
Bang, if people don't know what Big Bang is, it's largely known as sort of like tributes or homages to the superheroes of the 60s and 70s that Gary Carlson and Chris Ecker grew up on, which arguably launched the careers of Eric Larson and Rob Liefeld, which led to Image Comics. So there's a lot of history here. And you
Yeah.
can go to the Cosmic Lion Productions website and get this, or this is the Carrie Callan cover. Carrie Callan is an amazing cartoonist. Um, if you've ever seen one of his most famous cartoons is Wonder Woman taking off her shirt like Superman would, and she just has a bra on underneath. So he does a lot of like very much tongue in cheek, sort of like superhero riffs and parodies. He's very clever.
Hmm,
Gary
hmm.
Carlson of Big Bang. Always wanted to work with him, so it was nice that I was able to deliver a cover by Carrie Callan. But there's just a lot of talented artists in here that some I've worked with before as a colorist, and some I discovered through indie books. And you know, it's an amazing book. I'm very proud of it. That's probably between that and my YouTube channel. Those are probably my two biggest contributions to comic books at this point. But I feel like you're only as big as your last project, correct?
Yeah, yeah. But I love the positive angle that you bring and that you're talking about too, because like you, I've noticed there's lots of bashing that goes around and lots of sort of negative energy around a lot of comics and creator relationships, and I feel like there's enough negativity in the world. I like comics to be a positive space and literature to be a positive space that I can kind of escape into from some of that.
Exactly, like it's defeating the purpose. Like I feel like so glad that I was able to discover comics in a pre-internet era.
Hmm.
where I just liked the comic books that I liked because I liked them and not because anybody told me I was supposed to or supposed to not like them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I liked Power Pack, I liked Long Shot, I liked, Secret Wars Part 2, and I'm sure that would be roasted online today if it were published the way it was back in the day with the Beyonder and his Jerry Curl and all that. But that's part of the love of comic books, I think, and that's what drew me to Big Bang and Gary Carlson and Chris Ecker. It's just like they made the comic books that they loved. And I think that, or, they wanted to make the comic books that they loved reading, and
Hmm.
I think that's the success to comic books is like the best comic books are being made by the people who are making them because they love comic books and are making the comic books that they want to read. Like I
Yeah.
feel that over I heard that over and over again. And it's when you pander to the audience or are making it because you think it's going to be the next Netflix pitch, that's the absolute wrong reason to make a comic book. I mean, that would be amazing if, I would love to see Big Bangs, get a Netflix deal, but that isn't the reason they did it. You know what I mean? So, and I think that like the reward is definitely in the work. And I'm so proud of this anthology I put together. It's kind of new to the world. So I hope to spread the word and people get to see how much fun and like excitement and enthusiasm there is for comic books. And it's really not just a love letter to Big Bang comic books, but it's a love letter to superhero comic books in general, my favorite genre. I do
Yeah.
love other genres of comic books, but I'm just like so beholden to superheroes. But, prove me wrong. Like, throw me I can't even think of an example, but there are some out there like, I don't know, make but like there's a lot of I feel like world building and sort of like fantasy kind of comic books, like
Hmm.
what Matt Wisniewski is doing on like Faceless in the Family, or what Nick Cagnetti, another artist that I was blessed to have on Big Bang, is doing with Pink Lemonade. Like it's
Yeah.
such an imaginative, and he did this amazing like
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
two-page spread of Berserker, one of the greatest Big Bang characters that Eric Larson actually drew early in his career and was set to draw. I don't know if it ever happened, but you can read a lot of the history of Image Comics and Big Bang and within like the Megaton archives, which was released last year from Image Comics. It's a great trade paperback. A lot of great notes from Gary Carlson about the history and things like that. So it's fun comics.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like we have many of the same loves. I also appreciate Nick Cagnetti's art and Pink Lemonade. Are there particular kinds of stories? And I know superhero is part of your DNA as is part of mine, but particular kind of areas that you like to explore when you're creating.
It's funny. It's funny because what I'm creating, yeah, it's like I feel like I'm so influenced, recalling, doing this recap and of this X-Men cartoon that is largely based on the writing of Chris Claremont, and I
Hmm.
feel like
Hmm.
he informed like so much of my thoughts and my feelings, and it's like so emotional, and I don't know, I try to be clever and interesting and entertaining and sort of I don't know, I feel like I love the interaction between characters. So I want
Hmm.
to create a sort of meaningful or memorable interaction between characters that seem real, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Or
Hmm.
that you care about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like, I was able to do that with Big Bang. And, I just feel like you just want, comic books is a visual medium. So you just want to tell the story in the most entertaining way possible and still have it be clear and, um, plain enough to someone who might be, I don't know, a first time reader, or, you
Hmm.
know what I mean? I
Hmm.
feel like there are certain jobs we have as comic creators. But then again, as a fan, I like something crazy. I like something, I just got somebody sent me this, like a lot of people send me their books, this tech noir. I just literally opened it up and I'm like dying. It's amazing. Like that,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy and all over the place with the art, and it doesn't necessarily make sense. So, just capture, I guess you have to capture something, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But then again, I look for polish and professionalism from what, like, the comic I make. Like, it was so important to me. Like, there are like two typos in this book that will haunt me for the rest of my life, and you'll just have to find them on your own. And
Yeah.
but like, I want it, it's like, if the lettering font has to look good. You don't want the letters to be too crowded inside the balloon. You don't want
Mhm.
to use a cheap looking font if you're doing computer lettering. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. So there's just certain things like that. But from a story point of view, yeah, I feel like, I don't know, like, just like I said, just entertain your audience, and hopefully, or maybe just entertain yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's the key. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I've had Eli on. I've had a couple of folks from Cosmic Lion on. How did you connect with him and those creatives and then that group?
Eli and I probably met through the cartoonist kayfabe, like, fan group on Facebook that he's like the moderator for. Um, and he is publishing a lot of the artists that I'm like becoming friends with through these um fan groups and like some of the projects. And like, I don't know if I worked on anything that he did prior to this, but then when I got the idea for Big Bang, like, I had never like published something on my own, and like, I sort of like saw him have success with a similar book of his that he publishes called Ghost Agents. They did a
Hmm. Hmm.
Kickstarter. It was tabloid size, and they used a lot of the same artists. I was able to get on board for this project as well. And so it was sort of like a good map for what I wanted to do with like an anthology. I thought it was like a good place to start. So I approached, um, I don't know, I think I approached Gary first, and then no, like, maybe I approached Eli first and told him what I wanted to do. And, he was all on board and excited about it. And so we got Gary on board with it. And then, Eli was like completely instrumental in helping with the Kickstarter, and a lot of the, like, our printer was in China and he handled all that. He designed um, the baseball cards that went along with the Kickstarter. And, he's very good at what he does. And like, I'm very happy that he was able to hold my hand through the whole thing. And I basically just, like, from cover to cover, my fingerprints all over it, as far as, like, either doing layouts or designs or something. And Eli actually did some lettering on one of the stories, so that's kind of fun. And
Nice.
Chris Ecker, the co-founder of Big Bang, did layouts and wrote it. And one of my friends, a talented cartoonist named Stephen Wilcox, penciled and inked it, and I colored it, and Eli lettered it. So it was very collaborative.
Hmm.
And that
Hmm.
was like the fun and kind of like what I really love about this project, and hopefully future projects down the road. I really do love sort of like, the editing and the art direction, and just like seeing sort of like a vision come together. You know what I mean? So, especially when it turns out like so much better than I could have ever imagined. Like, it's so good. Like, everybody just, if you want a project to turn out good, tell them that you got Jim Rugg on the cover, because I
Hmm.
feel like it gave everyone sort of the notion to want to, they already wanted to bring their up game, but that sort of up the ante in a way. So whatever it takes.
Yeah, yeah, very cool, very cool. I love that tabloid size too. It reminds me of comics that were being published in the 80s, especially like Conan comics that came in that sort of like Rolling Stone size kind of format.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, it's a little bit bigger than that, which is
Hmm.
exciting. And
Hmm. Hmm.
because my the thing I love about it, and the thing I correlate it to, is Interview magazine, Andy
Oh yeah.
Warhol's Interview magazine, because it's
Hmm.
pretty much exactly this size. And this is my low key pop art comic book as well. But also, I can't help but think of ElfQuest, my
Oh yeah.
introduction to that size of a comic book, yeah, which is so beautiful. And I, interviewed Wendy Pini for my channel as well, and that was kind of a dream come true as a creator, as a fan, and just anyone who loves comics. She was such a delight, as I knew she would be to talk to, and they're celebrating their God 40th year of ElfQuest, and they
Oh,
recently are announced their in conjunction with the animation studio that did Into the Spider-Verse to bring ElfQuest to animation to life. And I don't know if I thought I'd ever see that in my lifetime. So it's kind of exciting to be
yeah.
able to see something like that you've always dreamed of as a fan finally come true. So I wish them the best success with it. And how can it not be, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I love how much you appreciate the medium alongside the creating. And love how those influences come through as well.
I feel like, yeah, like I feel like definitely like any creative thing I do is my love letter to all the shoulders I'm standing on, to the people informed me as a fan, but also informed like my creative process. You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
I feel like like I learned a lot from the reading a lot of interviews with editors and artists over the years, and just being like a really big fan of the process creatively and editorially. I kind of like the old reading the old Marvel Age magazine that was like, pre-internet, and sort of like our behind the scenes of, getting
Yeah.
interviews and, previews of what's to come. Um, it was kind of nice to live in a generation of comic books where you didn't know what the cover looked like for months in advance. And
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that it is still possible to be surprised in comic books. I mean, every once in a while a story does come along that, and I think that's, definitely what they were doing. They're able to capture like in this new X-Men 97 cartoon.
Hmm.
There have been some real gasp moments. So it would be nice to see kind of a return to that in comics, kind
Yeah.
of give me a reason to come back to the comic book shop every month.
Hmm. Hmm. Episode 5, definitely lots of gasps for
Yeah,
sure.
gas for sure. I know. I don't
Yeah.
think we're still definitely recovering from that one.
No, no, for sure. Um, well, I love the anthology nature of what you put together. I love the idea of inviting other people to be part of it and to collaborate. So it sounds like that was a really rewarding part of the process.
It was a very rewarding. I of course had my wish list of artists that I know and love their stuff, and I was extremely pushy, and but like if I but I knew it had to be like an anthology, and I knew it had to be like, Brian Payne, who did this like amazing like sort of tribute to like Alan Moore through this character called the Spook, who is basically like an amalgam of like the spirit and um the shadow.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
because they all sort of have like there's this is Night Watchman, he's like basically the Batman, Ultiman is kind of like a Superman, but they shouldn't be dismissed as just like knockoffs or whatever. Like they have like really interesting twists and their own um you know origins that are completely like solid and deep. But Brian Payne, he kind of like he was supposed to do like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 pages. Like I colored his stuff on like darkest image or whatever. And so I like we worked together really well. He calls me his Klaus Janson to his Frank Miller, and I will totally take that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean that is no in any way shape true, or do I believe that? So don't attack me. Um, but so his 2 pages led to like 13. Like everyone was just having so much fun with it, and I was able to sort of like build his stories as sort of like a framing sequence, which like really helped me put the book together. And like just so I sort of built it there. but a lot of people only had time for a pinup. Some people had time for 2 or 3 pages. Some people like Evan Quiring, this artist I've known for a while who is a self-published, did like these great cartoons, and I think his 3 pages turned into 6. So it just really came together really well. And there's an eclectic bunch. I mean, this uh I wanted it to be very different in some ways. And this, I have to say, I have to point this out. There's a 2 page spread here for this character called Glory.
Hmm.
She's basically like the Wonder Woman, and this is like a paper doll spread here. And
Cool.
it's my tribute to Trina Robbins, God rest her soul, that we just
Yes.
lost. And she was a huge influence. Her Misty comic meant so much to me. See, my tastes were like all over the place as they are now. But I actually wanted her to draw that spread, and she originally agreed to do it. And I don't know, I think she had a different notion of what it was, but I didn't push her, and she wound up not doing it. But I wound up using this amazing artist who's also a writer named Mike Madrid that I've known. He writes about the history of female heroines. He's written a few books, and come to find out, he actually has a history with Trina Robbins.
Ah,
When she was working, I think on Misty, she liked him as an artist, and she asked him to send her some clothing designs or something that he did. So it there was a lot of magical moments like when on the book like that just sort of came together, like Carrie Cowan coming on board as the cover artist when Gary had reached out to him in the past to no success, and somehow I was able to get him for this. He did this, not only the cover, but he did this great, like there's a character who's sort of like a Doctor Strange character called Doctor Weird, and he did this really hilarious. Like he does contributes to Mad Magazine. So I
nice.
mean, there's Marty Keene, who is like quickly becoming like very well known in the indie comic scene. Who did this like bootleg Spider-Man comic book, contributed a pinup here, so I was excited about that. Um, uh, like it featured some of my own art. There's like some very cartoony stuff, and it's just like a hodgepodge. One of my favorite artists and friends, Barry Tan, Sam J. Royale. Like there's just like 30 artists on here. So it is fully loaded. Like when I look back at it, I was like, what the hell was I thinking? But I pulled it off. The Kickstarter was successful, and we delivered on time. So now I'm just gonna pimp it out to every comic book award I can
Hmm.
think of, and just this is my baby for right now. And I'm behind the scenes coming up with some other unrelated projects that I want to work on once, has something to do with I've spent so much time in the 80s, but another one is kind of an 80s tribute anthology to a sort of obscure comic title that you may or may not have heard of, but I'm waiting for the cover on that before I announce it. And then the other one is a tribute to the bad girl genre from the 90s. So in addition, and other than that, I'm continuing to just plug away on my YouTube channel and try to sort of hopefully up the ante with the content. I feel like maybe if I had some sort of more exciting comic book related content, I would have higher views. But I can't complain about the growth I've had over the past couple of years. So you know, that's what's happening in my comic book world.
Cool, cool. Well, glad to hear that there's a creative vision moving forward and that you have some things that are in development as well. If you hadn't mentioned it, I was going to ask, so I'm glad that you
You
nodded
were,
to that.
it's, I guess it's the way my mind works as an interviewer because you sent ahead of the questions. So I mentally was like filing them in my brain. But yeah, I
Hmm.
really enjoyed, um, I would love to work. I definitely love to. I think we need to let the dust settle for a little bit before I did a sequel to the Big Bang anthology. But I purposely left a few open-ended stories and cliffhangers just because for 2 reasons. one reason I just thought it was kind of fun and like sort of a tribute to like those weekly serials or whatever of yesteryear, because I didn't have, 100 pages to tell the story. So
Mhm.
I feel like I tried to tell the best story I could within the space we had and then leave them wanting more. So that was that purpose there. So I would definitely love to come back to the Big Bang universe. Gary Carlson and Chris Ecker were amazing to work with. They are just like salt of the earth kind of guys. They love comic books. There's both positive forces in comic books. It was like such a privilege and an honor to be able to give them this book as part of their legacy and be part of the legacy, historically speaking. So I just feel very gratified by the whole experience. And I would love to have that uh, anywhere close to that again on a future project. It was a great to work with Eli Schwab and Cosmic Lion Productions, and he's doing a lot of great stuff. So I just think that, that's why I stay positive in comic books, because I know that the great experiences are out there. And, it's because of a love of comic books why we're all here. So if we can focus on that common ground, I think the world can be a better place for sure.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, I'll certainly tag the YouTube space. Any other spaces that I should tag that we should mention for folks?
You mean just like my YouTube channel, I think is
Or
just,
social media or websites or things of that nature.
I guess maybe just my Instagram, at Michael Fitztroy is just the only other social, and like, I don't know, my Facebook, but the usual suspects, I guess.
All right. All right. Well, sounds great. Well, I appreciate the time, Michael. I appreciate the creativity, the love of comics. Glad to chat comics anytime. Did we miss anything that you want to make sure to share before we close out?
No, I think just please check out Big Bang Comics. You will be pleasantly surprised how amazing it is. If I haven't sent you the PDF, I would love to send it to
Yes,
you,
yes,
Jason.
that would be great.
Uh, um, and just please check out my channel too, because I feel like I've just really exposed a lot of old and new comic book fans to old and new comic books that they are pleasantly surprised on as well. So it was great to talk to you, and um, I enjoy your channel. So
Well,
please keep
thank you.
up with helping spread the comic positivity, and I will definitely do the same. Thanks everybody for watching. I certainly do appreciate being here today.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for the kind words and talk again soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Jason.